Mutesa was a brave man. He fought.
He was president of Uganda, and at the same time he was Kabaka of Buganda.
He was knighted by the King of Great Britain.
He was a personally disciplined man who abided by the law.
He was determined and incorruptible.
And he was also very concerned about the development of Uganda.
Therefore, it is correct to say that Ssekabaka Mutesa was definitely a Pan-Africanist in the context of East Africa.
It is 50 years since our father died.
Remember Mutesa II as a remarkable individual who personified a triple heritage.
An African king, knight, and president.
We're gathered here today to celebrate the life of Ssekabaka Edward Fredrick Luwangula Mutesa II. We're gathered here to celebrate his triple heritage. His heritage as the Kabaka of Buganda, his heritage as the first president of the Republic of Uganda, and indeed his heritage as a nationalist in the struggle for independence of Uganda from our colonial rulers, the British.
Distinguished guests, you, our friends, and you many, our relatives who are here, and everybody else who I may not have mentioned, our family, thank you for being here to celebrate these planned celebrations for the life of our father. It is poignant that he would have turned 95 years old tomorrow, 19th of November. It is also very sad that it will be 50 years since he died on the 21st of November, 1969. The knowledge we have of him is what we've heard, is what we have read, or what we have heard people say of him. Most of the times, it was good. Many times, it was also bad. But this was written by people who had not done sufficient research, and therefore reported sometimes not objectively. So we thought that this time, to mark our father's life, we would ask a contemporary of ours, who we know well, to share his maybe knowledge of what he knows of our father. And he's somebody who we know very well, and we know he's researched widely. And he's also got a very keen interest in the life of the father and his contribution to the nation and to the state. Thank you very much, Apollo, for accepting to do this for us. And we are all very eager and ready to hear what you're going to tell us of what you have found.
The past months and weeks leading up to these series of events honoring our family patriarch, Ssekabaka Edward Mutesa II, have given us as a family the opportunity to learn new things about him or be reminded about certain aspects of his life, his personality, his struggles, and his personal reflections. On a personal note, my journey of discovery regarding our grandfather has allowed me to draw a few parallels between him and our keynote speaker. The first and foremost similarity the two men share is with respect to balancing their cultural identities with their contemporary times. Our keynote speaker is presently the chief palace advisor to the Kabaka, and on the contemporary angle is a distinguished and accomplished lawyer in one of Uganda's leading law firms. Another similarity he shares with Ssekabaka Mutesa II is with respect to their athleticism and a sense of adventure. Our keynote speaker is a disciplined athlete and adventurer who has conquered Uhuru Peak, the mighty Kilimanjaro's highest summit, and he enjoys gardening, photography, attending social and cultural functions, listening to jazz, and in his heyday, he was the ultimate breakdancer. I have the distinct honor and pleasure of introducing to you this afternoon Owek Apollo Makubuya, who will be presenting reflections on the triple heritage of an African king, knight, and president.
The recognition of Mutesa II, his contribution to Buganda and Uganda, coming 50 years after his demise, tells us many things about his relatively short life. As you heard, he was 45 when he died, as well as his enduring legacy. But most of all, what brings us here this evening is to celebrate his life, his achievements, and his accomplishments, both in his private as well as in his public life. We admire his commitment, his courage, and his candor. And on a continent that we know to be led by many corrupt and selfish individuals, we value and miss his sacrifice, his sensibilities, and his statesmanship. Today, we remember Mutesa II as a remarkable individual who personified a triple heritage. First, as the 35th Kabaka of Buganda, from when he was only 15 years. Mutesa was an incredibly smart man who, in Buganda at least, and certainly beyond, was viewed as an iconic embodiment of both traditional and our conservative past, but at the same time, an embodiment of a modern and promising future for Buganda and for Uganda. As a Ugandan, Mutesa, from the early 1950s, was at the forefront in the struggle for the country's liberation from British colonial rule. He emerged as the first, and I have no doubt the last, Kabaka, who was also the president of Uganda and its army's commander-in-chief. As far as Uganda is concerned, Mutesa believed that just as it's possible for a Scot to be a good British citizen and remain Scottish, in the same way, the Baganda can be good citizens of Uganda while remaining loyal Baganda. He was knighted by the King of Great Britain. He held a KBE and was a honorary Lieutenant General or Colonel of the British military regiment known as the Grenadier Guards. And he was the very first African ever to be admitted as a guard in this specialist army. There is no doubt that he was a man who personified a triple heritage. He was greatly influenced by this heritage, but also sometimes trapped by this same heritage. These heritages were intersecting in many ways, but occasionally conflicting in terms of traditionalism, colonialism, and nationalism. Mutesa's time as the leader of Buganda and later as the president of Uganda was extraordinary, starting from the time of the decline of the British colonial rule through the rise of African nationalism, as well as through Uganda's independence, ending in the turbulent years of post-colonial Uganda. During this momentous period, Mutesa led Buganda in a politically complex and ethnically diverse polity. During this period, Mutesa confronted a sophisticated machinery and secretive colonial regime, and yet at the same time attempted to marry the complex and often contradicting nationalisms of Uganda and of Buganda. His efforts, no doubt, were always complicated by his colonial upbringing as well as socialization. But what makes Mutesa II a remarkable person is not that he didn't have flaws, we all do, but more because from a very young age, he was thrust into the leadership of a dichotomous society, and notwithstanding all sorts of influences and pressures, he stood out as a determined, dependable, and devoted leader. It has been said that nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. This account today demonstrates that Mutesa used his power for good and carried out his duties with dignity, with determination, and with distinction. For this reason, I want to propose that instead of celebrating controversial colonial characters like Lord Lugard, Colonel Henry Colville, the King's African Rifles, Major General Francis De Winton, and so on, we should rename some of our roads to recognize and celebrate our national heroes, such as Mutesa II. I imagine that, if Mutesa II Road replaced Colville Road, that would be a perfect replacement. Does anyone support me in this? Thank you. May Sir Edward Mutesa's soul rest in peace. I thank you, and may God bless you.
But Makubuya has helped us to gain an insight into Mutesa and his times, which is a very important thing because we cannot go forward unless we know where we are coming from. And Makubuya's paper gives us that opportunity to look back and to look forward at the same time. Cohen's problem and Mutesa's problem was quite simple. You go back to the 1900 agreement and you find that that's where the problem springs from. It is even with us even today. Article 3 of that agreement provided that, and this was before the Uganda Protectorate was formed, 2 years before, provided that the Kingdom of Buganda will be a province of equal status with all the other 3 provinces of the Protectorate. And this has always been the problem. Buganda is saying, or has been saying, that we agreed to be a province of the Protectorate, not a district. And the problem that arose in 1953 is that Cohen was trying to downplay that agreement provision, and that's what led to the deportation of the Kabaka.
Assassination. Why didn't he engage in assassination? If he had done so, what would have been the consequence?
Let me correct one issue. Erimu bumbowa nga Oweekitiibwa Katikkiro bw'amanyi navaayo okusinziira ku mirimu gye nzize nkola mu Buganda kati ndi mukungu. Nenga ensonga gy'obuuziza, I think the point for me is it demonstrates Mutesa as a man of discipline. Because what if he had done what you wanted him to do, which was to shoot the governor dead? The amount of carnage that would have happened in this part of the world would have been incredible. So nti yali musajja atambulira ku mateeka era okirabirawo ddala okuviira ddala eri yonna ne bwajja wano ng'obota muli bubi era yatambulira ku mateeka kuwandiika amabaluwa kumujjukiza mateeka nga tatwala mateeka mu mikono gye. So that's the one thing we should remember about Mutesa, that even at the height or under a lot of pressure, he was a personally disciplined man who abided by the law.
Unity can be sustained and promoted by two virtuous elements. The first is truth, and the second is justice. The lecture we have heard today has been based on extensive research and analysis. It brings out the truth about Mutesa II and his contribution to his kingdom and his country. Mutesa was very concerned about the integrity of the heritage that he assumed as Kabaka of Buganda. And he was also very concerned about the development of Uganda. So with the truth, justice will inevitably and eventually prevail, and his true legacy will continue to shine long after his demise.
Did Mutesa support the East African Federation? Yes, because by this time we were in the same group, led by Ibinjira from the other side. Because what I'm telling you is current affairs for me. It is like yesterday. Kabushenga is reading in the library and so on. I'm just remembering. So your researcher Makubuya, you go and see the contest, because there was a contest between Kakonge. Kakonge had been left out of parliament. Then as some say they wanted to bring him in, I think through a seat known as specially elected. The Kabaka Yeka mistreated DP in Buganda. Did Makubuya bring that one up? To be a DP in Buganda was a crime. It's not true that Mutesa was isolated. Because definitely Mutesa and that group, that faction of Ibinjira, we are very close with Kenyatta. And even with Emperor Haile Selassie. But of course, once he lost power inside Uganda, the other leaders could not, because people fear to interfere in the internal affairs of other countries. So therefore, I don't think externally, even within East Africa, that Ssekabaka Mutesa was isolated. I think the problem was the bad advice from some of the actors around him, which is a problem of all leaders.
On this occasion of the Ssekabaka Mutesa II Memorial Lecture, the Chancery of National Honors and Awards is honored to announce that His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda, in accordance with the Constitution as the Fountain of Honor and in accordance with the National Honors and Award Act 2001, has approved the award of the Nalubale Medal to His Majesty Ronald Muwenda Mutebi II. And number two, in 9th of October 2010, His Majesty Sir Edward Fredrick William David Walugembe Mutebi Ruwangula Mutesa II was awarded the 50th Anniversary Independence Golden Jubilee Medal. That medal seems to have not reached the family. The President is therefore going to hand over a replacement of that Independence Golden Jubilee Medal. In according him the Nalubale Medal, Uganda also recognizes the contribution his illustrious ancestors made to bringing Uganda where she is. Excellency, I invite you to decorate His Majesty Mutebi's representative with the Nalubale Medal. Excellency, I would request you hand over the Independence Medal to the representative of the Kabaka. Please go back and, oh, okay. We have got a principal secretary.